Today we are going to study the final product of sexual reproduction, that is seed. You all know, children, seed is a fertilized ovule. When the ovule get fertilized, it get converted into seed, right? So if you see the structure of seed externally, you will find the following parts. First is seed coat. Seed coat, it is derived from the integument of the ovule. After fertilization, the integument of the ovule get hardened and it get converted into seed coat. Seed coat itself has two parts. Testa, this outer brown covering, this is said to be the testa. It is impermeable and hard. And inside testa, there is another one covering which is said to be the tegmen. And tegmen is thin and papery, right? So externally what you will see only testa, and testa, it is colored impermeable covering which is formed from the hardened integument, right? Now the next what you will see, the micropyle. As you know that from the micropylar end, pollen tube enters inside the embryo sac, right? So here in the seed you will see the remains of micropyle, and this micropyle is very important because when germination of seed takes place, then oxygen and water enter inside the seed through this micropyle. This white color scar, it is hilum. It is a scar which represent the this funiculus is where the funiculus is attached with the seed. So it is a scar, right? Here you are seeing the external structure of bean seed. Now we will study the internal parts of the seed. As you all know, and I told you earlier, that seed is a fertilized ovule, right? So integument which is present in the ovule, they get hardened up to form a seed coat. If you see the basic structure of seed, it consists of seed coat. As I told you, it is divided into testa and tegmen. Testa is the outer covering which is impermeable and colored, and tegmen is thin and papery which is present inside the testa, right? If you open the seed, what you will see? You will see the embryo, right? In the previous lecture, we have discussed in detail about the formation of embryo and the parts of the embryo, right? You must have remembered that we talked about the embryonal axis and epicotyle and hypocotyle. You know, hypocotyle is a part of the embryonal axis just below the cotyledon, right? And below it there is radicle and root cap. Beside this, in epicotyle we studied that it is present above the cotyledon and it terminates into a plumule. So here you are seeing the leaf-like structure. It is said to be the plumule, and this plumule give rise to shoot system, and here it is radicle which give rise to root system, right? So here the cotyledon part, it is very important because it reserve food material. When the seed start germinating or when it is in the seedling stage, then these cotyledon, they provide nourishment to the germinating seed, right? So here it is bean seed, right? And here it is the seed of castor which we studied earlier, right? In castor, you know, endosperm is there which is a reserved food material, and here the cotyledons, they are very much thin and papery. So here nourishment is provided by to the developing or the germinating seed by the endosperm. Now based on the number of cotyledon, you know that seed are of two types. You studied in the lower classes, in 9th class also it was there, right? Seeds are classified into two types, dicot, as the name suggests, di means two. If two cotyledon, cot means cotyledons. So if two cotyledons, they are present in the seeds, then it is said to be the dicot seed. You must have seen the dicot seed, right? Pea, in gram, kidney beans, right? Most of the pulses, they are dicot. Beside this, the other category of seed is monocot. Monocot, mono means one, cot means cotyledon. So seed with only one cotyledon, they are said to be the monocot seed. So this is about the parts of a seed, right? Now we come to on the basis of presence or absence of endosperm, seeds are classified into two: albuminous and non-albuminous, or endospermic and non-endospermic seed, right? Here in this diagram you are seeing the castor seed, which we have discussed earlier. This is actually the seed, right? And this is the internal part of the seed. When you will open the seed, you will see like this. Okay, so here you are seeing this green portion, actually it is cotyledons, which are thin and papery in castor seed, and this light green part, it is endosperm. And endosperm, here it is not completely used up during the time of this embryogeny. Okay, now what are albuminous seed? As the name suggests, albuminous seeds are those seeds in which endosperm is not completely used up. As I told you earlier, that what is the function of endosperm? Endosperm provide nourishment to the developing embryo. So during the time of development of embryo, in the whole process, the nourishment is provided by endosperm. And in this process, generally what happens, this entire endosperm, it get used up. But sometime this endosperm is not used up, and then it remains in the seed. So such type of seeds, they are said to be endospermic or albuminous seed, right? Here you are seeing this is castor seed, which is albuminous. So maize seed is also albuminous. This portion, this is the endosperm of the maize seed. Beside this, in wheat, barley, right, you will see this endosperm is persisting. So now the other category of seed, it is non-albuminous or non-endospermic seed, right? So in pea, in gram, right, you will see these seeds, they are said to be non-albuminous seed. Again, name is clear, non-albuminous or non-endospermic means endosperm is not there. Instead of endosperm, there are well-developed cotyledons. Here the cotyledons are not well-developed, but in these seeds, these cotyledons, they are very much developed. So here, when the seeds start germinating, then the nourishment is provided by cotyledons, right? So here cotyledons are very much thick due to reserve food material. Okay, so bean seed, gram seed, they are the example of non-albuminous seed. Now you will see this is the seed of black pepper, kali mirch, black pepper. Okay, so here it is sometime what happens in this black pepper, the nucellus we have earlier discussed that during the time of megasporogenesis, right, these nucellus cells, they have abundant reserve food material. Sometimes these nucellus, it doesn't get used up during the time of megasporogenesis, so it remains in the seed, right? So this residual persistent nucellus is found in black pepper. So remnants means remain, means nucellus doesn't get used up. You will see nucellus in black pepper, in the seeds of black pepper, right? So when nucellus is found, is persistent, right, and it is in the residual form, then it is said to be perisperm. So perisperm you will not found in all the seeds. In very rare seeds you will find the perisperm. So if somebody asks, or if this question is asked in your examination, maybe it is important for your NEET examination, that is, what is perisperm? So perisperm is the remnant of nucellus, right? Or they may ask that name the seed in which perisperm is found. So perisperm you will see in the seeds of black pepper. Okay. Now we will study about fruits. On the basis of their formation, fruit are classified into three parts: true fruit, false fruit, and parthenocarpic fruit. Now one by one we will study these types of fruits. First of all, false fruit. Here you are seeing the diagram of false fruit, right? This is apple, and here thalamus is the edible part of apple. So first of all we will define what are false fruits. False fruit are those which develop from floral parts other than ovary. As you all know that mature or ripened ovary, it is said to be the fruit, and ovarian wall is said to be the fruit wall, that is pericarp. But always it is not there that the edible part of the fruit is ovary. Sometimes many other floral part are also edible and fruit develop from that part, right? So here you are seeing the thalamus. You know that it is a swollen portion from where floral parts arises. So in apple this thalamus is edible, and the ovary, this center portion, it is said to be the ovary, and it is not edible. So fruits that develop from floral parts, right, but not from the ovary, are said to be false fruit. Again, it is very important. So now in apple you are seeing that thalamus is edible. Same way if you see in cashew nut, that is kaju, where peduncle you know, it is the stalk of the flower, it is said to be the peduncle. So in cashew nut, peduncle develop into a fruit, while in jackfruit the entire inflorescence get converted into fruit, right? So here ovary is not participating in fruit formation. Beside ovary, other part they are giving rise to fruit. So these types of fruit are said to be false fruit. Examples they are cashews, strawberry, mulberry, shehtoot in Hindi it is said to be. Apples you all know, pear, pineapple, jackfruit, etc. So these are the examples of false fruit, right? So here in this diagram you are seeing that edible thalamus is there, edible part is thalamus, and this is pericarp, right? Pericarp you know, fruit wall, and this is pedicel, right? And these are the seeds which are present inside the pericarp, right? Now we come to true fruits. True fruits. So definition of true fruits are: true fruits are those fruits which develop from the ovary of the flower, right? It is very important. Here floral part, they are not participating in the formation of fruit, only they are developing from the ovary, right? So these types of fruit, they are said to be true fruits, right? So here you are seeing the diagrams they are given. So tomato, it is a true fruit. Avocado, it is again a true fruit. Peach is there. So these are the example of true fruits, right? You know that fruit wall or ovarian wall get converted into fruit wall, which is said to be the pericarp, and pericarp is further divided into endocarp, mesocarp and exocarp. Exocarp is the outermost part of the fruit wall, and the middle is said to be the mesocarp, and the innermost part of the fruit wall, it is said to be the endocarp, inside which seed is present, right? Now another very important term for your examination, that is parthenocarpic fruits. right? So parthenocarpic fruits are those which developed without fertilization. If the fruit is developing without fertilization or without syngamy, then it is said to be the parthenocarpic fruit. So parthenocarpy may be natural or it may be induced artificially by application of certain growth hormones, right? In class 10th you studied about all these growth hormones which can induce parthenocarpy. These are namely auxin, gibberellins and cytokinins, right? And one most important characteristic feature of parthenocarpic fruit is that they are generally seedless, right? So if you want to make a fruit which doesn't have any seeds, so you can use the phenomena of parthenocarpy. Artificially you can use certain enzymes which may induce parthenocarpy in a fruit and you can get seedless fruit, right? Example they have given in the picture, they have shown parthenocarpic fruit, seedless watermelon, it is there, papaya, orange and pineapple. So these are the different parthenocarpic fruit, right? So again, definition is very important. So you should remember that parthenocarpic fruits are those which developed without fertilization of ovule, right? As ovules they are not fertilizing, so these ovules they will not converted into seeds, and as they are not converting into seeds, so the fruits they are seedless, right? Now we come to the certain important what are the importance of seeds, right? So seeds, you know, they are very important in agriculture. Seeds, when moisture of the seed get removed, they become very much dry, and in that dry condition they alive for many years. So viability of seeds may be of few months or it may be of many years, right? That is why we can store these seeds many years, right? Long term viability seed, it is given that 10,000 year of dormancy this seed has. It is Luminis arcticus, right? So this seed, it has very much long dormancy period is there. Dormancy period means seed is live, but all the metabolic processes which are occurring inside the seed they are taking place at a very slow rate. So this Luminis arcticus, it was excavated from Arctic tundra, right? And this is the oldest viable seed. Now seed can be stored for future usage. As I told you, they can be stored for future usage because store food is there. Beside, in a dry condition they remain dormant for many years, so they can be stored for future usage. As seed is the result of sexual reproduction where male and female parts are involved and gametes are involved, therefore many variation or genetic combinations they are there when the seed is formed. So seed, due to the sexual reproduction, seed show many genetic combinations, right? As you all know that seed has a stored food in it, right? So this stored food may be in endosperm or maybe it is present in cotyledons. So it provides nourishment to the developing seedling, right? So seedlings. Beside this, seed, the embryo of the seed is protected inside the cotyledons, right? And cotyledon and seed coat is there, which form a very important protective covering of the seed, right? So seed doesn't the embryo of the seed doesn't damage due to the presence of seed coat, right? Now many seeds, they are dispersed by wind, water, animals, different agencies. They are there to disperse these seed from one place to another. So these different seed, after dispersal, they get colonized in different areas and they grow there, right? So adverse conditions, if adverse conditions are there, then also the seed remain viable for many years due to their special structure, right? Now we will study a very important phenomena which is said to be the apomixis. Now apomixis is the phenomena in which seeds are produced without fertilization. Means inside the embryo sac, meiosis is not occurring. That is why seeds are formed without fertilization, right? So sometime you get confused in apomictic seed and parthenocarpy. So you should know the clear-cut difference between apomixis and parthenocarpy. Parthenocarpy term is used in case of fruits. When fruit develop without fertilization, then it is said to be the apomixis, and when seeds they are produced without fertilization, then it is said to be the apomixis, right? So apomixis is a type, you can say that it is a type of asexual reproduction, because here though the plant has plant produce both type of gamete, male gamete as well as female gamete, but here there is no role of male gametes, right? Only the female gametes, they are female part of the flower, they are responsible for the formation of seed, right? So how it happens? Actually, you know that many cells like nucellus, during megasporogenesis you studied about the nucellus cells which are present inside the integument of the ovule, and these nucellus cells, they are diploid. So these nucellus cells sometime developed into seeds, right? And sometime what happens, these nucellus cells divide mitotically, producing large number of embryo, and this is termed to be as polyembryony. Is it clear? So it is very important to note here that nucellar cells, they are diploid, right? As you know, after sexual reproduction, the zygote is formed, which is diploid. So male gamete is haploid, egg cell is also haploid. When they fuses, they form zygote, right? So zygote is diploid, and this zygote ultimately developed into an embryo. But here the nucellus cells which are diploid, they are dividing mitotically and producing many cells, and then these diploid cells, they developed into embryo. If only one nucellus cell is participating, then you can say only one seed will be produced, or only one embryo will be produced. And if many nucellus cells, they are continuously dividing, then more than one embryo will be formed, and this phenomena is said to be polyembryony or multiple embryo. You can see this polyembryony phenomena in citrus fruit, mango fruit, etc. So what you can do, you can take out the seeds present in the lemon, and what you can do, you can squeeze that seed. When you will squeeze that seed, you will see many embryo inside that seed, right? So don't get confused. If you see, you will see many seeds in citrus fruit, but all of the seeds will contain many embryo also. Clear? Means if you will see, if you will talk about only one seed, this one seed will have many embryo. That is why it is said to be the polyembryony. Is it clear? Now we come to the sometimes what happens, the egg cell, right? In egg cell reduction division, that is the meiosis doesn't take place, hence it remain diploid, and this egg cell developed into embryo. right? So these are the different mechanism by apomixis takes place. Generally, any part of the ovule which is diploid, it may give rise to embryo, right? So apomixis can be takes place from the nuclear cell, or it may be due to integument cells, or it may be due to egg cell which has not undergone meiosis. So by this way you can get, without fertilization, you are getting diploid cell, and this diploid cell will further divide and redivide same way as the embryo formation takes place, which you have studied earlier. Divide and redivide to form an embryo. Now, what is the importance of apomixis? Right? Apomixis, though in apomixis there is no role of pollen grain. That is why here it is genetically pure seeds they are produced from this phenomena. Means here only female cells they are there which are participating in the formation of seeds. So you will get a pure line seeds, right? So genetically, if you want to if you want any desirable trait in a particular type of seed, you can use this apomixis, right? As seeds are genetically similar to the maternal part of the flower, so these seeds they are said to be the clones, right? Because they are genetically similar to the female part of the flower. Here no new hybrid you can produce in lesser time, because here cross pollination it is not required. If you want to produce the hybrid, you need cross pollination between two flowers, but here cross pollination is not required. You are getting a seed, right, and without fertilization, so it takes place in quite lesser time, right? And this seeds you can use again and again. No need of doing cross pollination again and again. These hybrid seeds once produced, you can use it many times, right? So if the plant is disease free, you can get seeds which are disease free. So disease free plant can be produced by this method. And beside this method is quite cheap. It is not costly, because you don't have to introduce artificially. You are doing bagging and hybridize and artificial hybridization you are doing, so it is not there here. Only seeds are producing from a diploid maternal tissue. That is why it is quite cheap. So this is the importance of apomixis, and it is very, very important for your examination. One question is there, that is the apomixis mimics sexual reproduction. So it is type of, you can say, actually in apomixis male and female both parts they are there, pollen grains are also producing, but there is no role of male gamete in apomixis. That is why it is said that here apomixis is a form of asexual reproduction that mimics sexual reproduction. So this question can come in your examination.